Money in Excel, using and creating categories and subcategories for income type of transactions or deposits. Get ready because it's time to excel in money by using Money in Excel.
4.
Here we are in our Money in Excel worksheet. In prior presentations, we set up the Money in Excel template and then connected to a financial institution. Now we're going to go into sorting our data. Note, in order to set this up, we're going to go to the File tab on the left-hand side. This is what we did. We created a new item. You're looking for the template Money in Excel, which will allow you to do this linking process to the financial institutions in a similar way as you might have seen in accounting software such as the QuickBooks or other types of accounting software. If I then go back, now we have our financial data transactions in the system and some of our balancing data in the system. Now we want to sort that so we can do things with it, such as budgeting types of things and so on. In essence, we want like an income statement with regards to this. And I'm imagining putting this data together that we might be using for year-end tax preparations or something like that. I'm imagining we might want a whole year, say 2020 worth of data, which it does populate. If I go to the date range, it pulled in like 3 years of data, or at least 2 years of data. So we have the information necessary. Now we can just take that data and sort it in, say, an income statement type of format. Now, we're going to do this in a step-by-step process. You might look at this and say, well, look, that's a lot of data for me to organize. At the end of the day, we'll take this data, we'll put it into basically an income statement and trim it down so we can use it. It takes a few more steps than it might be used in like an accounting type of software. I'll try to basically show the differences between the accounting software and here because we're using basically the same data here. This data is just raw data from the bank, which are just increases and decreases to the checking account and any kind of banking information they have. So this is what we have in an Excel type of format. If you were to do this in an online software, I'm going to look at QuickBooks now, but there's free versions of online software too. There's pros and cons to doing that, just so you can get an idea of what it would look like in a system like this. This is different data, but what we've done here is a similar process. We just basically imported data into the system. And in QuickBooks, it would go in here, which is what I would call like bank feed limbo. This is the transaction field. And when you first enter the data, if you were trying to do like a whole year's worth of data to once again make an income statement, you'd have a similar process. It would all go into this limbo field. In other words, it wouldn't be used yet to create the financial statements. In other words, it wouldn't be used yet to create the balance sheet. And what we're looking for basically is an income statement. If you're doing tax preparation or thinking about like budgeting and stuff like that, this has some data in the income statement, but it's not coming from the bank feed information. This information that came into the bank feeds is not yet used to populate the financial statements. That's how kind of like the accounting software would work. And then you'd have to go in and categorize it in a similar way as we're talking now and confirm these transactions, which will then kind of magically be brought over from here to the income statement or the balance sheet, depending on the accounts. So you still have to have some kind of knowledge of QuickBooks, maybe even a little bit more to some degree, to know what kind of forms are going to be used to see if it's going to be an expense form, a bill, a check, and those types of forms, which are kind of, accounting software jargon, as opposed to just assigning a category, which could be actually a little bit more straightforward in Excel. In Excel over here, you're imagining you got the same data. And what they did is they pulled it in and then they tried to simply categorize it. So it's already categorized and it's not taking the categorized data and then making financial statements from it. We're going to have to do that step ourselves. We'll just group the categories together. But it's a little bit more transparent than in QuickBooks where it kind of forces you to, to put it in the category or the type of account and then it magically makes the financial statements. We'll have to do it a little bit more transparently. So first thing we need to do is then take this data and apply categories to it. So once again, I'm going to take 2021, so it's a little bit less data. You could do, again, it did all of 2020, so if you needed a whole year's worth of data, you could do the same thing for a whole year. I'm just going to take 2021, though, and then that'll be a little bit less data, and then I'll start to kind of categorize these. Now, you'll note they already gave us a category. These category fields are coming from the right tab over here, where we have the category fields that are the names. These are like account names, and then the category type, which is typically just going to be income and expense because we're focusing in on the income statement. When you're doing Excel format here, you're focusing in on the income statement. You do have balance sheet items, but they're not being created using the double entry accounting system. They're just being pulled straight from the balance that is told to us by the bank, which is, again, different than like a QuickBooks or other accounting system Well, you can't really do that, because that's not the way it works. It's not using the double entry accounting system. But pros and cons to that. So we're going to then be adding these items. So if I go back to the tab to the left then, these categories are being pulled. There's our category list from the list of categories on the right-hand side. Now the merchant data, the Excel system, and if I say QuickBooks every once in a while when I'm in here, I've just got done doing QuickBooks stuff, so I apologize. I'm here, I'm in Excel, so this is Excel. Just note that these items are coming in from like the memo from the bank information. So if you have electronic transfers on the bank, then these memos are quite useful, and then Excel can kind of convert them possibly into a name. And that's what they're trying to do here. That's kind of good and kind of bad, because it would be nice if they basically gave us the whole memo and then we can create the name possibly, because some of their guesses are not going to be quite right. So they're going to try to limit it down. So it's nice in Excel if you have this tab and you also have your banking information open, your online banking, then you can look up some of these transactions and compare and contrast and see what the Excel tried to do in order to format these and what the actual bank memo is. And if they didn't do it right, you can go look at it. For example, this one they put DBA, doing business as, I assume. Obviously, that's not helpful. Now, it might have been that was a check or something like that, and that there is no memo. They didn't know what to do with it, so they just put DBA or something like that. In that case, you can go to your bank account and actually find it. So it will be much easier if you have accounting in your bank account that has electronic transfers, because you're more likely to have then a bank memo, which Excel can then guess to be your merchant, which would basically either be your vendor or your customer in like accounting terminology or QuickBooks terminology or accounting software terminology. So these merchant items will not be perfect because they're taking the memo and shortening it down using some kind of guessing mechanism. And again, if you looked at it on the raw data on your bank accounts, they would be different. So let's consider how this will work first by looking at our deposits. So notice the sorting fields we have up top. I can sort it by date. So what I've done is I filtered it to 2021 only. And then I could sort it by date if I want to, which will be a typical sorting mechanism. We can sort it by merchant if we want to, which means the same kind of banking information. That is useful because it'll put the like items together. And we can sort it by the category, which may be useful, but the category is not as useful at this point in time because we need to categorize it. This is the thing that we're going to verify and check at this point. We don't have any subcategories yet. I'm going to sort it now by A to Z on the amount. Or let's go from Z to A on the amount. Z to A on the amount. And that'll put the high ones up top. So these are going to be the deposits. So now I can zero in on the deposits and kind of transfer and track those items. Now, most of the deposits are going to be basically from our business. We would think they're business deposits. If we have a personal account as well, we might have a W-2 job and a business job. Then I have to differentiate the W-2 income basically from the business income. And then I can categorize the business income as business income and the W-2 income as W-2 income. So what I want then is a category over on the right-hand side to do that. So they've got basically an income category right here. So we can use that as just a general income for like all deposits, or we can get a little bit more detailed on it if we so choose. So what I'm going to do here is if it's personal income, I'll make another category and I'm going to put everything that's personal into a personal account because I'm trying to kind of narrow down on my business information, imagining we need like a Schedule C. So I'm going to put a category down here for personal category. And then I'm going to make that a subcategory here I'm going to put the category type as personal as well. So I'm going to say it's a category type of personal because I want to kind of pull that out from my income statement. I want a different category to do that. What that will allow us to do is put all the basically income items that are business income into normal income and then everything else into personal. And I'm going to put everything else into personal, whether it be income and expense, so that we can sort those two things out. So then if I go back to the first tab, you'll note that if I have an item down here, I just added a category of personal, which is going to be down at the bottom here. So now we can also kind of further categorize all these deposits. Basically, I'm going to assume that they're going to be income. So the most generic way to do this is to say, well, anything that's going to be increasing my checking account is going to be some kind of income. And if it's business income, I'm just going to put it into the income account. I'm just going to put it into income. And if it's non-business income, like W-2 income or something from my other job, I'm going to put it into the personal item so that it's going to be categorized under the personal, and that'll help us to sort out the categories. Also note, when you go over to the categories over here on the personal, we can also try using basically account numbers over here. And so I might put like on this one 1010, so that I have basically this sorting on top when I sort for it. And if I go back then to the transaction and I look at this transaction, now I've got the personal 1010. It might be a little bit easier to see that way. And then when I sort this category, I can sort those kind of to be on the top, which might make it a little bit easier for me to pull them out of the transactions. So then I can put everything into either income or personal in this way. Now, if I want to further subcategories, I'm going to do some subcategories of these accounts as well. And then when I sort the data, we'll talk about sorting it later, could help me to sort the data in a little more nuanced type of way. So if I want more than just either business income and personal income, I could start to answer or have other accounts. So let's say this is coming from PayPal, and let's say this is going to be, I'm going to call that gig work. So I'm going to say it's still going to be under income. So I'm going to call it income. So let's say it's going to be an income type item. And then I'm going to say it's a sub account of gig income. And so we'll call that gig income. So now I'll further categorize it down to the gig income. And then if I go back on over here and we check that out, we want the category. I'm going to say it's going to be income for the category. And then subcategory, it's going to be the gig income. And that'll give us a little bit more sorting once we take this data and sort it later. We don't need that much detail possibly if you just want a basic income statement, but that'll give us a little bit more detail. So I'm going to do that on all of these. I'm going to say this is income. I'm typing it in there now, and that'll populate it from the drop down. So I'm typing it in there. There's the income. And then I'm going to say gig income. And so I'm going to say, all right. And then this one's going to be same thing, income. And I'm going to call it gig income. And then this one's going to be income. And it's going to be gig income. Notice QuickBooks didn't have, I'm not sorry, the Excel didn't have the information to populate this correctly. We're going to have to go through here and kind of revise this. Now this one's coming from Google AdSense. So again, we're imagining like something on our webpage that they're paying us for ads, or like a YouTube channel or something like that. So Google AdSense. So we're going to say then that's going to be income as well. I'm going to call it income. We could just call it income if we want to just have it be basic type of thing. If I want to recategorize it, I can add then a subcategorize. So it's going to be once again an income account. And this one I'm going to call it, let's say YouTube income. YouTube income. I'm not sure, but I'm going to make that up. YouTube income. So income, and we're going to say YouTube. And now this one's coming from a mobile deposit. So a mobile deposit. Let's imagine that this is basically like our W-2 income. Let's imagine that's a direct deposit from our employer or something like that. Then we might say that this is going to be not business, but personal income, so that I can sort that out differently. And then once again, we can sort the personal income in different ways if we so choose to. We could say this is going to be personal. What did I say? 1010 personal. Hold on a second. The category is going to be this one. And then I'm going to say this is W-2 income. Let's say W-2 income. And then if I go back on over here, I can have a subcategory of the W-2 income. I'll do the same thing here. This is going to be 1010 personal. And this is going to be W-2 income. And then we have the Google AdSense, which I guess is the same up there. So I'm going to say income. And this is the YouTube income. And then we've got the transfer to, and like this one, I think they got the memo wrong. So I'm not sure so I probably would go to the bank detail and say transfer of 882. What is that? These transfers that they got in. I'm guessing that's coming from like a Stripe account or something like that. So you can see what the actual memo would be, and you probably get more information on that on your actual bank transactions. And then you can see what the typical thing that Excel is doing to transfer it. And then I can go back on over here and I'm going to say, all right, let's call that income, some kind of income as well. Income, and I'm going to imagine this is like website income. So I'm going to say this is going to be income too, but it's website income, something like that. I'm just going to give some subcategory, website income. So it's income, but it's website income. And then this one, same thing. I'm going to say it's income, but it's website income. And this one, they've got a transfer. This is an IRS. So I'm going to call this personal. because it's an IRS. It might be saying that we're paying the IRS, but I'm gonna not put it on my income statement here. I'm gonna say this is going to be this is like a refund or something. I'm gonna call it personal, and then I might put over here tax refund, but maybe I'll just keep that as personal. And then I'll say that this one is an automatic payment. So an automatic payment of, once again, $589. So that doesn't sound, correct. An automatic payment of $5. So that's probably taken some kind of memo and not interpreting it properly. So if I looked at the bank feed, the memo would probably give me more detail than that. I'm going to assume, once again, this is website income. So I'm going to say this is income. Website income, and I'm say this is income, website income, and then this is a transfer. They're saying it's a transfer. So again, I don't think that's pulling over quite right. I'm going to say this is income, website income, and then income, website income, and then this is audible. So that's audible, like a book revenue or something like that, ebook revenue. So again, I might say, okay, well, that's income. And then I might go over here and say this is going to be income, but it's audible income, or possibly ebook income, or, audiobook income or something like that. And I'll put this is going to be audible income and audible income. And then we'll do that here. This is going to, see, they put it into shopping, but it's a deposit. So that category doesn't seem right. It's income. It's got to be some kind of income, right? It's a deposit. So notice their guessing of the categories is going to be extremely wrong, at least for the first part. But you can see how easy it is to kind of go in and fix this. And this is going to be the transfer. So again, I think that's going to be income. I'll say website income. So I'll say website. And then this one is a mobile deposit. So I'm going to assume maybe this is like my W-2 income, which I'm just kind of making this up. So I'm going to say, what if that's personal? I'm going to say personal, 1010 personal. And I'm going to call this W-2 on the subcategory, W-2 income. And then we've got this transfer income, which I'm going to say is income once again, and website income. And this is going to be income, website income, website income, website income, website income, website. And Amazon income. So this might be some kind of Amazon. So I'm going to say income, and then I might make another category that is going to be an income for the subcategory. I just call it Amazon income. So I'll make this Amazon for the subcategory. So once again, income, Amazon income, Amazon income, Amazon income. So notice it's trying to say shopping as an expense, even though it's a deposit, so it's really not guessing too good. And then this is interest payment, even though again it's income. So maybe that's interest. So maybe I'll say income, interest, income. So income, and that might be personal actually. Personal. I'll say 1010 personal and interest income. The reason I would say that might be personal is because if it's in my I'll probably get a 1099 from the bank, so I don't want to include it on my Schedule C if I'm doing this for taxes, because I'll probably include it on the Schedule B or interest income on the 1040. So I'm going to say that's going to be income. I'll say this is personal, and scroll down. We're going to say that's personal, and then we're going to say this is going to be interest income. Personal and interest income. Then 1010 personal and interest income. And then Amazon, this is income, Amazon, and then that's it. That's all the income items. So you can see, how much you got to go through and categorize it. But if you sort these things by the merchant, then the categorization will become, pretty easier to do. And you can just basically copy and paste the category. You may not need the subcategory at all, because you might just be saying, hey, all I want to do is break out the income. So now that you look at this data, you might say, well, look, it's still kind of a mess here. I mean, I got all this data. What we'll do is we'll take this data, once we've categorized it all, we'll take the data and see if we could just, sort the data so we have basically an income statement, meaning we'll just combine the categories together here so that we can basically get subcategories and get an income statement from it. So, and you may not need the subcategories in order to do that. And so we'll see how easy that is to do once we get all this stuff categorized, and we'll do that in a future presentation. And if you compare and contrast that to what will be done like in a QuickBooks, if you tried to do this in QuickBooks, then again, what the difference would be is you'd have to put all the stuff into QuickBooks, and then you'd have to basically still categorize it, but you would be using basically QuickBooks forms, and you might have to deal more with what a vendor is, what a customer is. The memos would be more descriptive. You'd get the full memo on it that you could then use to create the vendor or the customer and whatnot. And so you'd still have to go through and add all those items, and you'd have to break out what's personal and business, which once again can be confusing because, usually one file would only have personal or business. So you'd have to break out either using classes or in some way break out the personal transactions from the business transactions. And then QuickBooks would make the financial statements once you've added them in here. So there's no getting around sorting the data basically one way or the other. So you got to kind of learn either accounting software, how it does it. You got to add it from Limbo here into the financial statements, or how to do it in Excel, which means you got to transfer the data and then subcategorize and categorize it, and then basically group those categories together so that you can create an income statement with it. So next time we'll continue on, and we'll go into like the expense categorizations with it, and we'll do a similar kind of process here, and then we'll take that data and see how we can basically compile it together so we can make income statements and other reports with it.